Well, hello and welcome. It's time once again to try to fix something, and today on the workbench, a Xbox Model 1S, I believe that's what it's called. Yes, 1S. Let's plug this thing in and see what it's doing or not doing. Eject, nada. Power, nothing. So she's pretty dead. This will be like the third one of these I've worked on. I've worked on another one of these, but I haven't finished repairing it yet. I got parts ordered for it, so this would be like the third one. But it's totally dead. So let's get into this thing and see if it's been worked on before and what's going on with it. Well, we are finally in, and I think we see our problem. Much liquid damage. Even around the HDMI encoder, I see. Okay. It's not looking good, though. Well, isn't this lovely? Yep. Well, we are inside the workbench, ready to take a look at this under the microscope. Should be quite entertaining. Lovely. I'm kind of hoping this looks worse than it is. Oh, there's a... Did there used to be a capacitor there? Maybe not. Lots of stuff. Now, I have ordered a lot of capacitors that go on these boards because I have another one that I'm working on. I ordered a whole bunch of capacitors from China, like 100 of each value. Some of the common ones that are on these Xboxes, these 10 microfarads. There's some 1s, 0.1s. So I should have some of those coming. Of course, they're not here yet. And some of these caps are going to need to be replaced. And some of these resistors too. Let's look at the other side of the board. Get it in focus. And there's your retimer chip. Drives the HDMI output. I don't know if that's still going to be good or not. That is lovely. Even that's one of the HDMI ports right there. That right there, you can tell where the voltage is usually at. Yeah, that's not looking too sporty, is it? Whatever that used to be. I'm sure that some of this will clean up, because I do want to kind of document where the corrosion was, because sometimes you clean up and you can't really see. Wow, that kind of burned there. You can't really see sometimes where the damage was, and you kind of need to know that. That looks horrible. That has actually burned a hole through the board, looks like. And I believe that's charred. I don't know how deep that went, because I think this is like where the 12 volts comes in right here, the best I can remember. There's the connector. So that may be sitting at 12 volts. Don't really know if that power supply is still good on this thing. Probably is. It probably just shut down. But this is a mess. Yeah, that looks burned. Several fuses there, looks like. Or maybe those aren't fuses. I'm not sure what they are. A ton of corrosion. Well, I guess it's time to get cleaning. Well, I've been doing a lot of cleaning and looking around the board, and I've got more cleaning to do, of course. But our first major issue is going to be, if we look, this is the DC in connector where the 12 volts goes in. And we have a 1 ohm short to ground. So we got to find what that is. And it may very well be some of these capacitors up here. One of these capacitors I can see has a crack in it, but it looks like it's already burned it open. Let's see if we can switch to the microscope view here. And I can explain it a little bit better. Let's see. Right in that area. Well, it couldn't be as simple as a shorted capacitor, now could it? The short ended up being between the layers of the circuit board. The top layer there is 12 volts, and the internal layer was ground. And where it had burned right there, they had shorted together. So I ended up having to dig that out. I had a meter actually connected to the 12 volt rail, watching the resistance slowly come up as I would remove more and more of this charred area underneath there. So I started out with a X-Acto knife, peeling back the layers, and eventually I had to switch to the grinding pin to get enough of it off to get the resistance up in a normal area. And the capacitors, of course, had to go too, but they weren't the reason for it. But they didn't help it any. But that was the short. All right, after lots of cleaning and scraping between these layers, we are finally, let's see, we're 650 k ohms. So that's much better. At least we're not dead shorted anymore. Now we have other issues to chase though. All right, I'm about to apply power to this thing. I'm not sure what's going to happen. We're not shorted anymore. I'm not really sure if that supply is any good. But I have my probe in there where I can see if 12 volts comes up. And I'm going to switch the AC power on to this thing. 12 volts. I'm hearing an audible click sound. Maybe it's coming out of the speaker. Yep. I don't know what that means. Do I dare try to turn it on? We have 12 volts. I heard a noise, that's about it. Yeah, there's an audible sound coming out of the speaker. She's not well. I don't blame it. All right, where are we now? I'm learning, looking at schematics and other resources. Apparently, we have our 12 volts, of course. This inductor is related to generating 3.3. This one into making 5 volts, and they should be there in standby mode. So let me turn this on. AC power's on. 3.3 is good, and the 5 volts has shut down. But let me turn it off and back on. I don't have enough hands for this. I'm going to get back on this coil on the left there, that one right there, and you will see it trying to come up, and it shuts down. So something is holding our 5 volts down. It doesn't seem to be shorted to ground. So I set out trying to find the reason why my 5 volts would not come up and stay up. And I started just replacing resistors that were obviously damaged, that were some resistors, some traces that were just corroded away. Replace those, a few capacitors, in an endless search for the reason that the 5 volts would not come up and stay up. I have been chasing this for, no lie, hours and hours, trying to get my 5 volts to come up and stay up. And I've swapped ICs, this IC right here between I've got another board that's has the 5 volt stable on it. No difference. And I think I finally found it. Look way over here. See this resistor right here. On the board that's working, this in is tied to the final 5 volts out. It's some kind of feedback coming back in here. The 5 volt out connects here. But on my non-working board, I'm measuring into the hundreds of k ohms right here, right on the end of this resistor. Resistor is good itself, but there's no feedback. And if you follow this back, it says it comes through a 0 ohm resistor, which apparently has been replaced with a jumper by this point. You can see that comes all the way back to here, to the 5 volt, V underscore 5P0. And it's just not there. And I've been hunting all over this board trying to figure out, where is this? Does it exist? Did they do away with it? Because it says it's empty. There's no 0 ohm resistor there. It says they didn't fill it. But then it shows this wire across it. Well, let me switch to the microscope because I have finally found this thing. Right in there. Let's take a look at it under the microscope, and you can see it is pretty well eroded away. That's going to be why I don't have my 5 volts. Now, why they run that, feedback signal around the world, I don't know. I mean, this is like at least 4 inches away from the 5 volt generator circuit. I don't know why it's way over here and then they run it back. I don't get it. But that's what they did, and I've got to if I fix this, I think my 5 volts will be good. Hallelujah. All right, I just wanted to show you right quick, like what I'm working with here. Here's the 5 volt. There's the coil for the 5 volt circuit. There's the IC that controls it. And if you flip the board over, there's a few resistors, and capacitors right in this area that's related to controlling that 5 volt IC. And this jumper was way over here, right there. Yeah, that's why it took so long to find it. Okay, it's time to find out if our 5 volts is coming up and staying up. Let's see. I'm going to turn on the AC power. And I'm going to probe right here. Look at there. Solid 5 volts. She's working. Now, what happens if I press this power button right here? We turn on and we stay on. What are the chances we got a picture? Is this processor getting warm? Yes, it is. Slightly. Okay, we need to carry this, I guess, back out in the garage. Put a real heat sink on it and see if we're getting something. Although I've got a lot of work to do around this area that feeds the power to the hard drive. So I'm a little concerned about that, whether or not we're going to have good power there or not. But let's give it a try. All right, we are back out in the garage, and I think we're at the point of testing. I've just got this fan heatsink sitting on top there with some fresh thermal compound between there, because our processor was getting warm. It was trying to run. I just want to see if we've got some video. No fan spinning. Oh, there goes the fan. I think I heard the hard drive come on also. Nothing on the screen yet, though. We're so close. So I started doing just some general housekeeping all around the HDMI out circuit area, cleaning up any corroded looking end caps, any resistors or capacitors that didn't look quite right, touching up anything I could think of, because there was a lot of corrosion all over the board, and a lot of these caps need to be replaced, but they're like bypass caps. I don't think they're what's keeping it from working. But I tried reflowing the retimer IC, because there was some corrosion around it, and I had to repair some connections around it. Some of the connections, particularly the supply voltage going in, 3.3 and 1.1, those were corroded away. They were just gone. So I had to repair those, and just generally, check a lot of resistors and capacitors, anything that looked suspicious. But eventually, I just kind of gave up because nothing was working, and pulled the retimer from the other board that I have laying here that's waiting on parts. Went ahead and pulled its retimer IC and transferred that over. Decided to give that a try. Well, I went ahead and pulled that HDMI retimer IC off of that other board I have that I'm waiting on parts for. I do have some new ones ordered, but I just couldn't really wait to find out, if this thing is working or not. So I did steal that chip and have it installed, and it's time to find out if it's done any good whatsoever. I sure hope so. Well, again, it helps when you plug them in. It boots up a little faster. So I hear it accessing the hard drive. And I was able to sync a controller to it earlier. Anything? No, nothing. So I decided to go ahead and remove the HDMI buffer IC. It buffers certain signals going out to your monitor. Some of the control signals, it sets your resolution and that kind of stuff. So I pulled that up, and sure enough, there was corrosion under it. Great. And I cleaned and cleaned and cleaned, and I tried to reuse the IC, but no matter how I tried, it was just too far gone. There's a chunk missing out of it, you can see there, and one of the pads where the corrosion was there, it was just gone. There was nothing left to hold solder. I could not get it to take solder. So I just went ahead and gave up and pulled again apart from the other board I have laying here that was waiting for parts. It has become a temporary donor card, but to install it, I had to reball the board. Either reball the chip or you reball the board, and I decided it was easier to reball the PCB. And this was, I believe, 0.3 .30 millimeter balls that I had to install. And that was a lot of fun. And I hope I never have to do it again, but I probably will. Okay, where are we now? Day 3 or 4 of this nightmare. I have replaced the retimer IC here, and I just replaced this little, people refer to it as a buffer IC off to the side. Tiny little chip. That handles a lot of the signaling that goes on between, the computer and the monitor, determining, what resolutions your monitor can handle. Anyway, a lot of that stuff, it has to work properly, for the monitor to work. So I think I'm at a point of testing again. Let's see, I've got it hooked up to my monitor that normally goes to my microscope. Get some power. What's gonna happen? This is still just sitting on here, so it may ramp up the fan in a second. Put a little pressure on it, it'll be happy maybe. Oh, what's that? I don't believe it. Finally, it was that buffer IC, which I stole off of that board. That was it. I think she's alive now. I've got some more work to do to it, some more cleanup, some capacitors to change out. Little things, but I think this one is back from the dead. And it has been a pain in my life for a while. But anyway, I think I'm going to finally end this video here, which I don't know how I'm going to edit this down. I have literally hours of footage working on this thing. But yeah, she's up and working at 640 by 480. I hope that was somewhat entertaining to you. It wasn't to me, it was a pain. But if it was, please give me a thumbs up. And I will see you in the next repair, which hopefully will not be an Xbox One S. So long for now.